State Department of Education is seeking a large increase in next year's budget. Thursday's vote comes on the heels of a new national study which shows Oklahoma again led the nation in the percentage of spending cuts per pupil since the recession hit in 2008. The battle over education funding is expected to take center stage when lawmakers return to the Capitol next year.
For each student attending public school in grades K through 12, the state of Oklahoma pays $3,038 a year. That figure comes from the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, a research organization in Washington, D.C. Based on the 2013-2014 school year, the center shows Oklahoma has slashed education funding by nearly 23% since the recession of 2008. More than any other state. John Ford, who is the Senate chairman of the Education Committee, takes issue with the findings.
I think that report is absolutely misleading. It only looks at the appropriated dollars. It does not look at all the other sources of funding coming into a district. In Oklahoma, about 47%, I think, of our total funding that goes to school is appropriated. When you bring in all the local, the federal, all the other sources of funding, then that is a more true picture.
The authors of the report say the spending cuts were calculated by adjusting for inflation. Still, Ford challenges the accuracy of the assessment.
When you go back to 2008 and 2013 and compare those, we actually increased funding by about 7%. Now, that's not keeping up with inflation, but it is a far cry from the story that report presented.
Jeannie McDaniel serves on the Education Committee of the State House of Representatives.
Now, I would challenge anyone, any family or business to say that they want to live on the income they had in 2008. With inflation and the cost going up every day for health care, for food.
Trish Williams is the Chief Financial Officer for Tulsa Public Schools. She says data from the United States Department of Education reflect Oklahoma's poor per pupil spending rate.
We're about 15% below the regional average, and probably I would guess around 20% below the national average.
Williams believes lawmakers need to act.
The legislature needs to do their job, okay? In a state where we are reducing income taxes, where we are giving property tax exemptions, that pie is getting smaller and smaller, and the ability to fund education properly becomes more and more difficult.
Senator Jim Halligan is chairman of the Appropriations Subcommittee on Education.
And I think for this legislative session, we need to emphasize the importance of funding for public schools.
Halligan and Senator Ford led efforts last session to appropriate more money for education, something they vow to do again next year.
Relative to per pupil spending in other states, I think we need to increase the amount of spending. And those are things that Senator Halligan was a Senate author on a bill last year that tried to increase that. We have increased spending the last 2 years to common education, and I think it's important that we continue doing that.
We need to address the pressing, particularly the shortage of teachers that we have. That's a significant problem for us. We have trouble trying to keep people in the STEM areas in our schools. So we have lots of areas that need to be addressed.
McDaniel believes the state can't afford to cut other state departments or agencies to pay for education. She says new money is required.
Other states have done it. We can look at states that have done it, and they've usually done it by their people jumping in, paying higher taxes, and investing in their future.
The probability that you can increase taxes in Oklahoma is very small. The people have endorsed a constitutional amendment that makes that almost impossible.
The senators believe the legislature needs to re-examine the dedicated money dispersed each year to government programs that don't have to go through the appropriations process.
I think too much comes off the top. I think we should stop having things come off the top. We ought to look at all of those things up there and each year decide, should we indeed increase the amount of money that we're putting in the county roads and bridges improvement fund?
So, how much money are they looking for?
You're talking, it certainly has to be $100 million, okay? And that's a significant amount of money. That's what I think we ought to do as a state.
But $100 million won't go far. Halligan says giving each teacher a $1,000 raise would cost $50 million. The State Board of Education is seeking a minimum pay raise of $2,500 for teachers and certified personnel. That will be part of a $2.78 billion budget request, which is $297 million more than was received this fiscal year.